Chosen one, you didn't search for this message searched for you. The fact that these words are reaching you now is proof that your spirit has already stepped into the alignment written long before your birth. Something unseen has been circling your life, weaving silence, exile, and even rejection into a hidden design that only heaven understood. And now, that design is being revealed piece by piece, confirming that nothing in your story was wasted. This is not entertainment. It is not coincidence. This is a code, a seal breaking over your life. What if I told you that every tear, every unanswered prayer, and every quiet night was being stored as testimony, waiting for the appointed hour? If this message already speaks to your soul, subscribe, like this video, and comment 77 below. Because what you're about to discover is that your silence was not weakness. It was your weapon, and now the hour of release has come. Stay with me until the end, because the revelation waiting for you is one they never wanted you to see. Number 1. The silence that shielded you. There were seasons where you mistook silence for abandonment, but heaven was using it as consecration. They thought your stillness meant defeat, yet every hidden day was oil gathering in secret places. Psalm 27 verse 5 declares, "For in the day of trouble he will keep me safe in his dwelling." And that scripture was alive in you before you even knew it. Every delay was protection, every closed door was preservation, because what you carried was too sacred to be exposed too soon. While others sold their strength for applause, you were hidden so you could endure. They whispered about your absence, but heaven was writing your authority in silence. Comment, "I seal this word in light," if you know your stillness was not failure, because what was guarded in silence is now preparing to roar in the open. What comes next will reveal that the very exile they mocked was the cave where your crown was forged. There are moments when a whisper echoes louder than thunder, and you remember nights when silence wrapped around you like a heavy cloak. It felt endless, like an unanswered prayer stretching into the void, convincing you that heaven had turned its face away. Yet beneath that stillness, something ancient was working, pressing roots deep into soil you could not yet see. Silence was not an absence but a womb, cradling the seeds of what you were always meant to become. Those who looked at your life judged the lack of noise, mistaking hiddenness for weakness. They never understood that silence itself was the architecture of your survival. And now you stand in the same silence, but it no longer feels empty. It feels alive with memory. You remember the ache of being misunderstood, the weight of carrying questions without answers. At times, your sensitivity felt like a curse, making you too open, too raw, too aware of things others dismissed. The room would shift when you walked in, though no one could explain why, and you would shrink to avoid drawing more attention. There were days you longed for normalcy, yet something in you knew you were not designed to blend. The loneliness burned, but even in that fire, your soul whispered that it was not punishment, but preparation. Others laughed, others doubted, but your tears watered a field they could not see. And now that field begins to bloom, and you understand why your isolation was always holy ground. Every story of exile in Scripture carries this hidden rhythm, a sealing before the revealing. Think of Joseph in the pit, David in the cave, Moses in the wilderness, each one hidden so heaven could write authority into their bones. Psalm 27 verse 5 was not just written for the faithful of old. It was alive in you when you had no language for it. In the day of trouble, he will keep me safe in his dwelling, was more than a verse. It was the invisible shield you never recognized. Your delays were not accidents, they were timing devices. Your silence was not abandonment, it was consecration. And now the pattern unfolds. What looked like wasted years were vaults storing treasures you were not yet ready to hold. Look back and you will see how the signs were always there. Déjà vu that made you pause, dreams that returned with symbols etched too deeply to ignore, moments of stillness when your spirit felt full though your mind felt empty. Those weren't illusions, they were fingerprints of the divine. Even the unease in certain rooms, the heaviness in some conversations, the sense that you were too much or out of place, were confirmations that you were marked. The silence taught you to notice what others missed. The quiet became your classroom, and the hidden became your map. Every still moment was heaven teaching you to hear with your soul instead of your ears. You wondered if you had imagined it all, if your intuition was just longing masquerading as truth. But the confirmations always returned, subtle yet undeniable, like the rhythm of waves against stone. Slowly, without fanfare, the pieces began to align. This was not an explosion of awakening, but the gentle recognition that you had always known. The whispers of your childhood, the strange comforts of solitude, the inexplicable resilience that carried you through storms. They were all threads in a tapestry you could only now see. You were never abandoned. You were always held in a silence too deep for words, yet strong enough to guard your flame. Awareness unfolds like dawn, not like lightning. Remembering who you are is not about becoming someone new, but uncovering the truth buried beneath the noise of the world, beneath the layers of doubt, fear, and rejection. Your original name waits to be spoken again. This is not a name given by people, but one carved before time, carried through every silence. It is the archetype you embody, the lineage you reflect, the prophecy you fulfill without even trying. You are not becoming chosen. You were chosen before you breathed your first breath. And silence was the veil heaven used to protect that truth until you were ready to carry it. Now the shift begins, and the silence no longer imprisons you. It empowers you. You realize your sensitivity is strength, your stillness is wisdom, your isolation is initiation. They called you weak, but weakness trained you in resilience. They mocked your absence, but absence forged your discernment. The silence you carried is not a chain but a crown, polished in secrecy until the moment of unveiling. What they dismissed as nothing is rising as testimony. And you, chosen one, begin to step forward with the quiet authority of someone who knows they were hidden for a reason. You are not here by accident. You did not stumble into this message. It was waiting, timed, sealed until now. Your silence was never wasted. It was your shield, your consecration, your preparation. Let this settle in your soul like water returning to its source. You were not abandoned. You were preserved. Comment, I carry the silence as crown. If you feel the truth of this stirring in your spirit, share the moment, the dream, or the season that proved your silence was never empty. Because what comes next will show you why even the exile was holy, and why your hiddenness was never weakness. It was the foundation of your authority. What we do here every day is possible because of the few who choose to be keepers of this light. I thank them now, one by one, in the silence of my heart. If you want to be part of this circle and receive what cannot be spoken in public, join. The portal is below. Step into the inner circle where deeper revelations are waiting for you. Number 2. The codes in the waiting. Chosen one, the silence was never empty, it was encrypted. Numbers repeated until you couldn't ignore them. Dreams replayed like echoes, and phrases returned as if written on the walls of your soul. Isaiah 49 verse 2 says, He made me into a polished arrow and concealed me in his quiver. And that concealment was a classroom, teaching you how to read divine language. They thought you were wasting time, but you were learning to translate heaven's handwriting. Every unanswered question was a code. Every delay a hidden instruction shaping your spirit. They couldn't understand it because it was never meant for them. Only those marked by heaven could decode it. Comment, I walk crowned by eternal flame. If you've begun to notice the patterns in your own waiting, because what once looked like emptiness is now becoming a map. And soon, that map will lead you straight into the place they said you would never reach. There were nights when you felt an unexplainable heaviness, as if the atmosphere itself pressed against your chest. It was not just exhaustion or sadness. It was a strange awareness that something was resisting you, though you could not name it. Even in silence, you felt opposed, like invisible eyes watching from the edges of your story. This quiet weight was not random, and deep down you knew it. It was as though the very air carried secrets about who you were becoming, but no one around you could confirm it. Every unanswered prayer and delayed promise became another layer of tension, tightening around your spirit. What you didn't realize then was that this conflict was a signal of hidden codes beginning to surface. The emotional toll of these moments left marks deeper than words could express. You knew the ache of being misunderstood, of speaking truth and having it dismissed as foolishness or imagination. Sometimes the rejection came through subtle silence, and other times through open ridicule, leaving you to wonder if you were simply too much. Shame began to creep in, whispering that perhaps your dreams were delusions. There were days when cycles of self-doubt felt like chains pulling you under water you couldn't breathe through. Yet even in that drowning, your heart carried a stubborn flame that would not die. That flame was proof that your suffering was not weakness but refinement. When you pull back the curtain now, you begin to see that none of it was random. Systems, voices, and even energies conspired to suppress what you carried. Not because you were weak, but because you were dangerous to the shadows. The wilderness you endured was not punishment but preservation, much like Israel walking circles until the generation was ready to see promise fulfilled. Isaiah 49 verse 2 says, "He made me into a polished arrow and concealed me in his quiver." And that concealment was alive in your story. You were sharpened in silence while the world assumed you were forgotten. What resisted you was reacting to the threat of your potential, not the reality of your weakness. Heaven itself had veiled you until the hour of remembrance. If you trace the threads of your life, you will see the patterns you once overlooked. That job that slipped away, that friend who betrayed you, that door that slammed shut. All seemed like failure at the time. But every obstacle carried a hidden message, steering you away from traps you didn't see. The betrayals revealed who could not carry your crown. The delays refined the weight of what you were being prepared to hold. What once looked like chaos was actually choreography, heaven arranging every step in rhythm with a language you only now begin to read. The light turns on, and suddenly you see the map that was always under your feet. There is also a spiritual weight to what you endured, a resistance not of flesh and blood. You can feel it now when the room grows thick, when the atmosphere changes simply because you entered. Your light has always drawn interference, like a beacon calling both alignment and distortion. Silent watchers lingered, fog clouded your path, doors closed without reason. All because what you carried was not meant for every eye. This was never about punishment, but about recognition in the spirit. Even the heaviness you felt on your chest was evidence that unseen structures identified you as marked. They were never after the shell of who you are, they were after the flame within. How you responded to all of this reveals the depth of your journey. Some days you shut down and chose silence not out of wisdom, but out of fear of standing out. Other times you bent yourself into shapes of pleasing, hoping that shrinking might save you from attacks. Then there were days you rebelled quietly, choosing to endure even when you felt unseen. Each response was human, each one valid, yet none could erase the truth of what was in you. The fear of being rejected fought against the hunger to remain authentic. And though you stumbled, your spirit never surrendered. That is why you are still standing, even when you thought you would fall. Now the shift begins, and your waiting takes on new meaning. The resistance becomes confirmation that you were chosen for something worth opposing. Every closed door was proof that you carried a key they feared. Every betrayal was evidence of authority they could not control. And every cycle of silence was a code teaching you to read patterns beyond human logic. The map is no longer blank. It is alive with direction. What you mistook as emptiness was always encrypted instruction. So hear this now, chosen one. You were not resisted because you were weak, you were resisted because you were unstoppable. The more they tried to silence you, the louder your destiny became. The more they tried to block you, the clearer your purpose revealed itself. Every delay was not denial, it was divine calibration. You were targeted because you carry what they cannot destroy. Comment, "I move guarded by divine fire," if this truth resonates in your soul. And share the dream, sign, or moment when you knew resistance was more than coincidence. Because what comes next is not just release. It is the breaking of rivers that cannot be dammed. Every word, every image you receive here is an offering. If you feel this word has touched you today, you can honor it with a sign, right here below with a donation through the Super Thanks button. It is a small gesture, but it opens great doors, and it helps keep this light alive for every soul still searching for it. Number 3, the river of release. There comes a moment when what was stored in silence cannot stay sealed, and that moment is now. Psalm 56 verse 8 says, "You have kept count of my tossings, put my tears in your bottle." And those bottles are tipping, flooding deserts with rivers. They thought the drought would bury you, but every sigh, every wound, every hidden battle was water preserved underground for this appointed hour. The river remembers your name, and it rises not only as blessing around you, but as awakening within you. They mocked your struggle, but that mockery became the pressure that cracked the ground open for your flow. What they buried has broken into streams, and those streams are about to spill into every corner of your life. Comment, "I rise marked by the divine," if you sense this river stirring, and share the dream or sign that told you you were never unseen. Because the current doesn't stop here, it is pulling you into overflow. There are moments in life when a single memory suddenly glows with new meaning, and you realize it was never random. A conversation once brushed aside now returns with power, carrying a message you could only hear today. A dream that seemed like nonsense now unfolds like a prophecy, its details shimmering with relevance. The strange synchronicities that followed you, the repeating numbers, the sudden delays, the unexpected shifts, were not coincidences at all. They were part of a hidden rhythm, waiting for your awareness to catch up. What once felt like scattered fragments now begins to align into a design that was always underneath. The first crack of light has broken through the veil, and perception itself is shifting. As your sight sharpens, you begin to understand that reality was always whispering in symbols. Every silence was a scroll, every waiting season a line of divine mathematics, every disappointment a coded lesson written in geometry too precise to ignore. What looked like stillness was actually language, carrying instructions no one else could decipher. It was never for them, and that's why they mocked you, because their eyes were not tuned to see what was concealed for you. The codes were alive in your daily walk, hidden in patterns of repetition, moments of déjà vu, and sudden chills that visited without reason. Even the pauses, the deserts, the hidden corners of your story were alphabets of heaven etched into your soul. The veil has lifted just enough for you to see that nothing was wasted, not even the silence. The proof of this awakening is not only around you but also within you. Your body begins to respond differently to the spaces you enter. Clarity sharpens, boundaries rise, and intuition speaks with authority that cannot be ignored. Environments that once felt neutral now either drain you or ignite you instantly, because your spirit has grown sensitive to truth and distortion. The very people who once confused you now appear transparent, their intentions visible before they speak. Your silence feels weightier, your presence more defined, and your energy more unshakable. These inner shifts are not imagination. They are confirmation that your awakening has already begun. It is not theory, it is lived experience, unfolding inside you as undeniable reality. And as the internal shifts grow stronger, the external world begins to echo them back to you. Doors you never thought would open begin to move, while others close firmly without warning. People shift their tone, either drawing nearer with reverence or recoiling in discomfort, unable to endure your authenticity. Opportunities appear where once there was only resistance, yet opposition also rises, because light always exposes what is afraid of exposure. What is within you now speaks through circumstances, arranging the stage for your next step. The architecture of your path reveals itself like a temple rising from beneath the ground, stone by stone, precise and unshakable. Your reality is no longer random, it is alignment manifest. But perhaps the deepest stirring is not new at all. It is memory returning. A dream you carried since childhood, a sense you could never explain, begins to form into language you can finally understand. You were not inventing it, you were remembering it like fragments of scripture written long before your birth. Psalm 42 verse 7 says, "Deep calls unto deep," and that call is echoing now, pulling you back to what you have always been. The hidden chambers of your spirit, sealed for seasons, are unlocking like doors swung open by ancient keys. Your intelligence is not just sharpened. It is ancient, awakened, and magnetic, reminding you that nothing has been lost. What you feel is not the beginning of something new, but the return of something eternal. With memory comes vision, and with vision comes destiny. Suddenly, the future no longer looks uncertain, because it is not being created, it is being remembered. The path ahead is not invention, but reclamation of what was always waiting for you. You no longer need permission because you see now that the authority was always inside you. The chains of doubt begin to break, and you rise into prophecy not spoken by others, but by your own spirit. Every step you take forward now feels like a call rising from within, answering questions you did not even know you carried. This is the hour when destiny stops being a concept and becomes your breath. So you begin to reclaim what they tried to strip from you. The years of silence were not wasted, they were consecration. The resistance you faced was not rejection, it was confirmation. Every betrayal was proof that your presence carried something too dangerous for falsehood to coexist with. Now your voice, your presence, your very existence feels like a weapon sharpened in hidden fires. You remember that they never truly silenced you. They only pressed pause on a song that was destined to return louder than before. The veil has lifted, and you are reclaiming the crown that was forged in caves of exile. And here is the revelation you cannot ignore. What is happening to you now is not the end, but the invitation. Revelation is not the closing of a book, but the opening of a scroll written for your name. The truth has always been waiting for this moment, waiting for you to be ready to see it, feel it, and embody it. Comment, "I walk hidden yet never lost," if this word resonates in your spirit, and share the dream, the sign, or the moment you knew your silence carried meaning. Your story is part of a larger chorus, and every reflection deepens the river flowing through us all. What was once confusion is now unveiling, and what was once hidden is now guiding you forward. And as you stand in this river of awakening, know this, the current has only just begun, and the next surge will take you further than you ever imagined. Number 4, the witness of overflow. Chosen one, this is the hour where scars become rivers of healing. What once looked like shame will now shine as authority, because 2 Corinthians 12 verse 10 declares, "For when I am weak, then I am strong." They laughed at your weakness, but heaven turned it into witness. They underestimated your tears, but those tears became the proof of your endurance. Now your life itself becomes testimony, spilling healing not only for you but for every soul tied to your light. What they tried to bury in private will rise in public as undeniable evidence that the hand of God was on you all along. Comment, "I anchor this truth in my soul," if you know this unveiling is yours, and share the sign or story that proved your flame was bigger than their shadows. Because what's breaking forth now is not the end. It is the inheritance your silence was always protecting. A sound rises inside you like a whisper older than memory, and it feels less like discovery than remembrance. It is the hush of scrolls unsealing in the chambers of your soul, carrying words you somehow already knew. You sense that the silence you endured was never empty, but storing echoes from a time beyond time. Like a forgotten hymn returning in fragments, the melody begins to thread itself back together, and suddenly the ache you carried feels sacred. You did not stumble into this hour. You were summoned to it, as if eternity has been waiting for your arrival. What they mistook for silence was a language too ancient for their ears, but one your spirit always understood. Now, the veil lifts, and the ancient whisper becomes a call you cannot ignore. Hidden deep within you, there has always been a name not spoken aloud. It is not the name they wrote on papers or called in crowded rooms, but the secret name etched into you before birth. That hidden name is why you never fit comfortably into their expectations, why you felt estranged in gatherings that celebrated conformity. You carried the sealed scroll, the unspoken role, the remnant identity too weighty for common tongues. Like the lost son in distant lands, you wandered among voices that could not pronounce your true sound. Every moment of dissonance was evidence of your divine otherness, proof that the world's noise could never overwrite what was buried inside you. And now that name stirs, demanding to be remembered, pulling you into the truth of who you have always been. Symbols have always followed you, even when you did not understand their meaning. There was the invisible mark on your spirit, sensed by those who either loved you fiercely or rejected you violently without explanation. There was the cloak wrapped around you, unseen but undeniable, the energy that made your presence linger long after you left a room. Those who carried light recognized it, though no words were exchanged, because resonance is a language older than speech. You were identified not by what you said, but by what you carried in silence. Your life has been proof that the unseen reveals more than appearances ever could. Now you see it clearly. You were never ordinary, you were always marked. Every step of your journey was shaped by contracts written in heaven long before you took form. The struggles that seemed unnecessary were actually part of the vow you made, the agreement signed in spirit before entering flesh. The delays that felt cruel were in fact timing devices, ensuring you would arrive in season, not in haste. Like stars bound to their orbits, your destiny could not wander beyond the coordinates heaven assigned. The missions you thought failed were not failures but sealed scrolls, waiting for the appointed hour to be opened. Your life has been less a series of accidents and more a fulfillment of contracts too sacred to be canceled. Tonight, those contracts rise like fire in your bones, reminding you of the value once whispered before the throne. The way others treated you has always been more revelation than coincidence. People did not react to you because of what you did, but because of what you carried. Your presence was a mirror, reflecting hidden shadows they wanted to ignore, or awakening truths they longed for but feared. That is why some clung to you with reverence, while others fled in anger or hurled rejection to shield themselves from your light. You never understood why your silence shook them, why your stillness stirred storms, but now you see. You were a divine mirror. To some, you were healing, to others, unbearable exposure, but either way, you were undeniable. Their reactions were never about you. They were about what you forced them to see. This revelation is not only personal, it is archetypal. What you are walking through is part of a cycle written in prophecy, repeated through generations of chosen vessels. You are not simply a soul awakening. You are the return of archetypes too ancient to erase. The seer who holds visions, the rebel who breaks patterns, the guardian who stands at gates, the breaker of chains who dismantles illusions. These roles do not vanish with time. They surface in every age when truth must rise again. You are stepping into that continuum, fulfilling prophecies larger than your own story. When you breathe now, you are breathing with those who came before, carrying forward the legacy of archetypal light. And your alignment is proof that heaven never leaves its archetypes without heirs. Let it be declared clearly now, you are part of a divine bloodline, not in metaphor, not in wishful thinking, but in spiritual truth encoded within your very being. Your veins carry prophetic DNA. Your breath carries angelic codes. Your bones remember the songs of your ancestors. What was lost in their mistakes is restored in you. What was buried in their silence is broken open in your voice. Generational curses bend in your presence because your lineage has shifted from wound to healing. The reversal is alive, turning chains into crowns, ashes into oil, and silence into testimony. You are radiant not because of striving, but because the divine bloodline has awakened in you. So hear this final revelation. You didn't just wake up, you returned. This is not the beginning of something new, but the remembrance of something eternal. Every step you took, every tear you shed, every exile you endured was leading you back to this point. You are not learning who you are remembering who you have always been. Comment, I stand chosen and sealed, if this word touches the place in you that already knows it is true, and share the dream or sign that confirmed your remembrance. Your life is not the tale of a stranger becoming someone, but of an heir reclaiming their inheritance. And as this revelation seals itself into your spirit, the next chapter rises. For revelation is not an ending. It is an opening to the greater mystery still ahead. Chosen one, hear this clearly. Your hidden seasons were not weakness. They were power being stored. The time has come for what was concealed to be revealed, and no shadow can block what heaven has released over you. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Like this video, and comment I am chosen to let this message anchor in your soul. Please, share it with someone who needs to hear this. To all who stand with this light, thank you. Your support makes this possible. For full prophetic revelations daily, join the membership via the link in the description. Your spiritual path deserves more than fragments. step into the full light. And if this message moved you deeply, consider tapping the Super Thanks button to support the mission. Every Super Thanks fuels the light we're spreading together. This is your hour, chosen one. Walk sealed, walk crowned, walk unstoppable.